My family always said it was just business. So when they fired me and handed my job to my cousin Sophie, I was expected to smile and disappear. But what they didn't know was I owned the building they worked in, and their time was up. I never imagined I'd be packing up my office at Brightwave Solutions on a gray Wednesday morning in Portland, Oregon, staring down at a cardboard box filled with the last 5 years of my life. The sleek corner suite I had worked my way into with missed holidays, sleepless product launches, and boardroom battles now felt hollow, as if it belonged to someone else entirely. "You're dragging this out," Emma Bright cut through the silence, his tone dripping with impatience as he loomed in the doorway. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You've got 20 minutes, Emma," said Jonathan Bright from the doorway, his umbrella dripping onto the polished floors. His tone was detached, almost smug as he straightened his designer coat. "Sophie will be stepping in as VP of Innovation immediately." Sophie, my cousin. The same Sophie who didn't even finish college, who bounced between passion projects until 3 months ago when she suddenly decided tech was fun. She'd walked in with a title and a corner desk thanks to cozy ties with Jonathan's wife. Emma gently placed my awards into the box. Team Leader of the Year, Best Performing Division, and the plaque marking our $25 million 0-cent Series B milestone. Each one a silent witness to the hours, the sacrifices, the grind tossed aside like they meant nothing. "Those won't mean much where you're going," Jonathan sneered, his eyes flicking to the awards with disdain. "You're replaceable, Emma." "Oh, and your badge," Jonathan added, raising an eyebrow. "Security protocol." "I can't take chances." I handed it over without hesitation, the corner of my mouth twitching. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" I said, my voice low but steady, meeting his gaze. "Humiliating me in front of everyone?" What he didn't know, what no one at Brightwave knew, was that I held the deed to the building through a quiet entity called Willow Ventures, a name borrowed from my grandmother. "Willow sent a notice yesterday." Jonathan waved it off. "Sophie can handle it. She's better with people than you ever were." "Better with people?" I replied, a sharp edge to my voice. "Or just better at manipulating those who sign her checks. If only he understood the clause wasn't about a rent review. It was the trigger termination within 12 hours for any tenant found violating fair employment clauses. Like, say, wrongful dis-item into my box. A photograph of me at 15 standing with my grandmother in front of this building before renovation. I could still hear her voice. And one day they'll learn that power isn't about titles. It's about deeds and who holds them. "You're clinging to the past, Emma," Jonathan said, noticing the photo. "This company's moved on without you." At 18, I'd mastered zoning law. At 28, I owned this address. And now they were standing on my ground, and by 25, I owned the building that Brightwave Solutions now leased, offering them a competitive rate. Not because I needed their money, but because I always knew a day like this would come. "One more thing," Jonathan Bright said as I picked up my box. "The severance package we discussed. The board thought it would be better allocated as part of Sophie's signing bonus." He tilted his head, mock sympathy barely disguising his smugness. "You're giving her my severance?" I asked, my voice icy. "After I built this company's reputation from nothing? I'm sure you understand. Family first, after all." Family first. I'd heard that phrase so many times it was practically a lullaby. When Sophie needed help paying off her credit cards, my parents drained my college fund. When she totaled her BMW and needed a new one overnight, I was told to be grateful I even had a bus pass. And when she decided she wanted my job, our parents called to gently remind me how selfish it would be to stand in her way. "Family first," I echoed, my voice barely hiding the venom. "Funny how that only applies when it's Sophie's turn to take." "Of course," I replied, brushing past him. "Family first." The elevator ride down was silent, but my thoughts moved quickly. "You'll never recover from this, Emma," Jonathan called after me, his voice echoing in the hall. "You're finished in this industry." By now, my attorney, Leela, would have received my green light. The paperwork was ready. The eviction notice would land on Brightwave's legal desk by sunset, citing a breach of the lease ethics clause. Wrongful documented evidence of nepotizing rumors and a hostile work environment. I have the receipts. Every word, every meeting, every whisper. In the lobby, Sophie stood with Margaret Bright, perfectly poised in a tailored navy blazer. Sophie smirked as if she'd won. "I always knew I'd outshine you, Emma," she said, her voice dripping with triumph. "You were holding this company back. Glad you're clearing out," Margaret sneered. "Sophie wants to redesign the entire floor. Your taste was cold." Sophie gave a sheepish shrug. "I'll take care of things, Emma. I promise." I stepped back when she reached for my arm. "Just like you took care of the narrative, right?" "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," Sophie said, her smile tightening. "You lost. Accept it and move on." "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Margaret said, rolling her eyes. "It's just business. Just like it wasn't personal when Sophie hinted I was emotionally unstable. Just like it wasn't personal when she spread lies about me flirting with client. Just business." "Just business," I said, my voice steady but laced with fury. "You spread lies to steal my job, Sophie." "That's not business. It's betrayal." "You're right," I said, my voice calm. "It is just business." "You'll regret crossing me," Sophie whispered as I passed, her eyes glinting with malice. "I always win." Outside, the rain had finally stopped, but a storm still lingered in the air. I placed my box in the backseat of my blue SUV. Not flashy, not new, but mine. My reflection in the window didn't show defeat. It showed ownership. I didn't look like someone who had been defeated. I looked like someone who was about to win. My phone buzzed with a message from Lila. "All documents signed. Notice will be delivered at 6:00 p.m. sharp." I typed back one word. "Proceed." As I drove through the quiet streets back to my modest home in Lake Oswego, I thought about what today would bring. Jonathan's face when he realized Brightwave Solutions had just 12 hours to vacate their headquarters. Margaret's reaction when she discovered their trusted landlord was the woman they dismissed without a second thought. And Sophie when she realized her shiny new office would be off limits before she had time to hang a single-frame diploma. "They thought they could erase me," I said aloud, my grip tightening on the steering wheel. They were about to learn how wrong they were. But mostly I thought of my grandmother's voice. Real power doesn't come from the tallest tower. It comes from knowing the land underneath it is yours. When I pulled into my driveway, there was nothing flashy to suggest I owned one of the city's most valuable commercial properties. Just a small, quiet home, a carefully tended garden, a mailbox with my name. Another buzz, a message from Sophie. "No hard feelings, right? You get it's just business. Family brunch on Saturday." "No hard feelings," I muttered, deleting the message. "You'll feel plenty soon enough, cousin." I didn't reply. There would be time for brunches and excuses later. For now, I had a job to do. Inside, I stepped into the real control center, my home office. This wasn't the sleek space I'd just been forced to leave behind. It was better. It was real. Here sat the deed to the building, the founding documents of Willow Ventures, and the binders color-coded, indexed, of every shady meeting, every whisper of favoritism, every HR complaint brushed under the rug. I opened my laptop. First, an email to all Brightwave employees, scheduled for 5:55 p.m. Please be advised that due to unforeseen circumstances, all staff are to work remotely until further notice. Building access will be suspended starting at 6:00 p.m. Next, the press release. Willow Ventures terminates lease with Brightwave Solutions effective immediately due to documented ethical and contractual violations. Finally, I sent instructions to building security. Change all access codes locked down at 6:00 p.m. sharp. My phone buzzed once more, this time from my mother. "Sophie explained everything. We're disappointed in how you handled this." "Disappointed?" I scoffed, tossing the phone aside. "Try betrayed, Mom. That's the word you're looking for." They'd understand. All of them, that success built on lies, manipulation, and betrayal isn't success at all. It's rot beneath a glossy surface. Outside, the Portland rain returned, tapping steadily against my window as I finalized the last preparations. In less than 12 hours, Brightwave Solutions would learn what happens when you underestimate the quiet one. The one who stayed late, said little, and observed. They thought they were firing an employee. They didn't realize they were waking a landlord who had spent 6 years laying the groundwork for this exact moment. And Sophie. She'd learned that some battles are already lost the moment you step onto the board. I closed my laptop and stood by the window, watching rain cascade down the glass. Today's forecast? Stormy with a 100% chance of consequences. At 5:30 p.m. sharp, I parked across from the Brightwave Solutions building, coffee in hand, watching it all unfold. Employees poured in, chatting, laughing, unaware that their workplace was minutes away from lockdown. At 5:45 p.m., Jonathan Bright's sleek black Mercedes rolled in, followed by Sophie's shiny silver Lexus. Of course, a coordinated entrance, her big day. At exactly 6:05 on the clock p.m., my phone buzzed. A flurry of notifications, access codes changed, entrance sealed, Lila on video, eviction notice served to a very confused receptionist. From my car, I saw the ripple effect. Employees waving them back, groups forming, phones out, and then the crescendo. Jonathan stormed out, eviction notice in hand, his face dark with disbelief. He shouted into his phone, barking orders that no longer mattered. My phone rang. Jonathan Bright. Pre to voicemail. "You're finished, Emma," his voicemail roared. "I'll make sure you never work again." Then again. "Sophie." I watched her pacing near the front doors, lips tight, her designer heels slipping on the wet pavement. Declined. A third time. Margaret Bright. Declined. Then came the text from Sophie. "What did you do? What did I do?" I whispered, a cold smile forming. I took back what's rightfully mine. I stepped out of my car, smoothed my jacket, and walked across the street. Heads turned, murmurs spread. Jonathan spotted me, eyes narrowing as recognition hit. "You?" he growled. Eviction notice crumpled in his fist. "Willow Ventures, it's you." I smiled, voice calm. "Good evening, Mr. Bright. I see you've received the notice regarding the lease termination." Jonathan held up the document, face flushed. "This is outrageous. You can't just kick us out. We have rights." "Rights?" I said, my voice sharp. "Like the rights you stripped from me when you handed my job to her without a second thought?" "Actually," I said, pulling a thick folder from my briefcase, "I can." I flipped to a highlighted section. "Would you like to review the documentation from my dismissal yesterday?" Sophie stepped forward, the confidence draining from her face. "This is revenge. You're just bitter I got your job." "Bitter?" I snapped, stepping closer. "You stole my life's work, Sophie, and called it ambition. You don't deserve to stand where I stood." "Took my job?" I let out a dry laugh. "Sophie, you didn't take anything. You colluded with Margaret to plant rumors about me, you fabricated complaints, you convinced my parents to guilt me into stepping aside. You pocketed my severance." I motioned toward the building behind them. "And now, you've lost everything. No office, no title, no company address." Margaret elbowed her way through the crowd, her polished calm unraveling. "Jonathan, say something." "She can't do this. Can't I?" I said, my voice steady. "You underestimated me, Margaret. That was your first and fatal mistake." But Jonathan was already on his phone, likely with his legal team, and as I watched his expression sink with each word, I knew they were confirming what I already knew. The eviction was airtight, and Willow Ventures held every right to enforce it. 12 hours, I announced, my voice now announced how naked the building. "Anything left behind will be treated as abandoned." Jonathan's voice cracked. "You expect us to move an entire company in 12 hours? We have contracts, clients." "The same amount of time you gave me to clear out my office," I replied. "Nothing personal, remember? Just business." Sophie grabbed my arm, her eyes wide and glassy. "You can't do this to me, Emma. I'm your family." "Family." I pulled away, my voice trembling with fury. "You used that word to justify every betrayal, every lie, every theft." I gently removed her hand. "Exactly. And you always said family first. So that's what I'm doing. I'm protecting my real family." Willow Ventures' phones were out, people were recording. I didn't care. I had waited 6 years for this moment. "Oh, and one more thing," I added, pulling a second document from my folder. "This is a formal notice of legal action against Brightwave Solutions for defamation, workplace discrimination, and wrongful termination." Jonathan lurched toward me, fury contorting his face, but Margaret held him back. "You'll regret this," he growled. "I'll bury you in litigation." I smiled. "I'll see you in court." "You think you've won?" Jonathan shouted as I turned away. "You're nothing without us, Emma." I smiled. thinking about the archive I had built over the last 6 years, every offhand comment, every backroom deal, every whisper of misconduct dominating. I look forward to discovery, I said calmly, watching Jonathan's expression twitch. I'm sure the board will be very interested in some of the materials I've compiled. That landed. He knew exactly what I meant. The questionable vendor kickbacks, the consulting payments to his golf buddy, the HR complaints swept under the rug, the quiet pattern of systematic exclusion and discrimination, all of it ready to be unsealed. I checked my watch. You've got 11 hours and 45 minutes left. I'd start packing. As I turned to walk away, Sophie called out, voice trembling. About Saturday brunch. Mom and Dad already made reservations. Brunch? I turned, my voice cold. Tell them to save their appetite for the truth you've been hiding from them. I paused, then turned slightly. Tell them I won't make it. I'll be busy leasing to a new tenant, one that doesn't treat loyalty like a liability. The next few hours were chaos. Box trucks lined the street, employees rushed out with monitors and chairs, executives whispered frantically into phones. I watched the entire spectacle from Lila's office across the street, where we were already receiving offers from new tenants. By midnight, Brightwave Solutions was mostly cleared out. I returned to what had been my office. Sophie hadn't even taken down my framed vision board or the founder's quote of the month. I stood by the window, watching Portland's skyline glow in the evening. My phone buzzed endlessly with messages from my mother. Mom, how could you betray your cousin like this? Dad, we didn't raise you to be vindictive. Sophie, you've destroyed everything. Huh, I said aloud, a bitter laugh escaping. I just exposed your house of cards, Sophie. But one message made me pause and smile. It was from my grandmother's old number. He would be so proud. You're the only one who understood what real power looks like. The next morning, headlines exploded. Brightwave Solutions evicted in corporate scandal. Family feud erupts into business blow-up. But my favorite. Willow Ventures steps into the spotlight, the quiet force behind Portland's property boom. The article praised our strategic property acquisitions and long-term vision, naming the Brightwave building as just one piece of a much larger portfolio. A month later, I received a dinner invitation, not from my parents, but from my grandmother. When I arrived, she was already waiting, seated in her favorite chair, a spark in her eyes that said everything without a single word. Your grandfather kept a journal, my grandmother said, handing me a weathered leather notebook. He wrote about you often, said you were the only one who understood his lessons about patience and where real power lies. I opened it, instantly recognizing his neat, looping handwriting. My granddaughter asked me today why I invest in old buildings instead of new ones. I told her what my father told me. Real value isn't in what stands above the ground, but in owning the ground itself. She understood. Look how far that girl will go. I blinked, holding back emotion. Sophie called, my grandmother added, pouring tea. It's moving. Says she can't find work here anymore. She thought she could take everything, I said, my voice steady. Didn't realize I'd already secured the foundation. I nodded, thinking of the email I'd received earlier that day. A proposal from a leading tech firm to lease the building. Their plan? A startup incubator on the lower floors, offering affordable space and mentorship to first-time founders. She always said, my grandmother mused, revenge is a poor man's game. Real success isn't about payback, it's about getting ahead and bringing others with you. I smiled. It was never about revenge, I said softly. It was about justice. And now it's about building something better. That night, as I drove home, I passed a building that had once carried the Brightwave Solutions name. The sign was gone now, just clean glass, waiting for the future. My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie, her first in weeks, that wasn't defensive or bitter. I get it now. What you built. What it took. I'm sorry I tried to take it from you. I never saw how hard you worked. Sorry doesn't undo the damage, I whispered, but a part of me softened, if only slightly. I didn't reply right away. Some truths take time, some apologies require more than words. But as I pulled into my driveway and stepped out beneath the cloudy Portland sky, I thought again of my grandfather's words. True power isn't about having the biggest office. It's about owning the ground beneath their feet. And finally, they all understood. If you've made it this far, thank you. This isn't just a story about contracts and office buildings. It's a story about worth, and how sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who overlook it the most. I never set out to destroy anyone. I just stopped letting them destroy me. And if you've ever been dismissed, underestimated, or made to feel like your loyalty was a weakness, I hope my story reminded you that quiet strength is still strength. You don't have to shout to be powerful. You don't need revenge to win. You just need to know your worth and keep building, even when no one's watching. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from something or someone to protect your peace? Have you ever been pushed aside only to come back stronger? Share your experience in the comments. Let's talk about it. Because sometimes the most empowering thing we can do is speak the truth and remind others they're not alone. And if this story moved you, consider subscribing.